my childhood. I was born, can everyone hear me well? I know this is a bad room, I know. I was born in Armenia, and Armenia is a beautiful country. It's such an ancient country. Every single stone in Armenia feels like has history to tell. Armenia actually was the first country in the whole world to adopt Christianity as state religion in 301 AD. So we were the first people in the world to adopt Christianity as state religion. And I really love the story, how this happened. The king at that time was Tătar III. His name was Tătar, and he hated Christians. He was known to hate Christians, and he had this massive dungeon. It was called Horvida, which literally means a deep pit or hole. And if he found Christians, he would just take them and just throw them in that pit and just let them die. All the Christians. So that's how much he hated Christians. And interestingly, his father's a person who was always with the king's assistant, right? His name was Gregory the Illuminator. And after his father's death, when he became a king, Tătar wanted this Gregory the Illuminator to worship his pagan gods. And this Gregory refused. He said, I'm not going to because I'm a Christian. And this Tătar got so angry. He said, that's it, you're going into this dungeon. And he ordered his guards to throw him in this dungeon. And after that, Tătar fell in love with this beautiful, it was told that this lady was absolutely stunning, this virgin actually. And she was a Christian. And he was pagan, and she said, no way she's going to marry this king because he's pagan and she's Christian. And this king got so angry, he said, kill the lady. And they murdered the lady. And after that, the king goes very depressed and very, they say that he was going mad actually, constantly thinking about this lady. And his sister, the king's sister, had a dream. And in the dream, God said, the man that you threw in that dungeon is going to be the one to save you from your depression and madness. And he was like, okay, fine. And orders his guards to take this Illuminator, Gregory the Illuminator, out of the dungeon. And after 66 days, it said that he completely got out of his depression, he got much better, and he fell in love with Christianity, listened to this Gregory the Illuminator all the time, and he decided that everyone in Armenia was going to become Christians and destroyed all the pagan temples, and Armenia just became a Christian country after that. This was in 301. Interestingly, after that, if you ask people, if you do a survey, 97% of Armenians will say they're Christians. 97% of Armenians. And of course, after that, communism came and ruined everything, and people started relying on government more, and yeah. And my dad at that time was a very wealthy man during communism, and after communist Russia collapsed, lots of banks closed down, and many people lost a lot of money in the banks because banks wouldn't give the money back. My dad lost his business, and he became extremely depressed, and then I became very depressed seeing my dad like that. And most of my childhood I was suicidal, and many other things happened in my childhood, and until I found God. But my mom saw how anxious and stressed I was, and she was talking to this relative of ours who was going to this church, and everyone who was going to this magical church was getting better. And she said, do you want to go and check them out? And I was like, oh, I don't want to. And I was like, fine, I'm going to go and check them out. And it was a Seventh-day Adventist church. I went to that church and everyone was so happy there. Everyone just saw me, they were hugging me and welcoming me, and I was like, is this heaven? What is this? and then I sit down, depressed totally, and the pastor starts preaching. And I've never met this pastor in my life. And he's starting answering questions that I had, like not all of them, some of the questions. And I'm like, how does he know? These are all the questions that I had about God. And yeah, that's how my journey started with God. This is gonna be about, I'm very passionate about mental health. And I really want to talk about this because in many Christian churches, people don't feel comfortable saying they're depressed, they're stressed. It feels like people look at you weirdly and say, how can you be a Christian and be anxious and stressed? Don't you trust God? And I want to share with you today that it is okay to be depressed. It is okay to have those feelings. So I want to go to Proverbs 12:25. And it says, anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, or some Bibles will say causes depression, but a good word makes him glad. And people who went through depression, they'll be like, it's not as simple. A word is not going to be making me happy, but I can tell you it did in my life, okay? If you don't have depression here, don't feel like you're superior. I know a friend of ours who never had depression, and they always were looking weirdly at me for going through it, and then major things happened to their life and now they have depression. So any of you can have this, okay? And there are 4 roots of depression. It can be a biological cause, which is you might have chronic pain. You don't want to be, but constantly you have chronic pain and you're depressed, you can't get out of it. You might have a chemical imbalance. You might have nutritional or hormonal imbalance. You might be pregnant and going through emotions, and you might not be sleeping enough. So that's the first one, biological. Second one is relational. Your kids might be driving you crazy. Your marriage might be falling apart. You might be going through divorce, and maybe there was a global pandemic that locked us up for months and months and months, and we had absolutely nothing to do with our community, and we were not worshiping. It can be circumstantial. The third one is circumstantial. Maybe you lost somebody, you know, and in the worst scenario, they maybe ended their own life, you know, and you want to see them one last time to talk to them, you know, or maybe you might be going through a financial issue, or you might be at the stage of your life, you don't know the purpose of your life anymore. You have lost that purpose. And the fourth one is spiritual, which is the dark spiritual fight that is constantly going on in the background. This evil spirits constantly battling and trying to steal, murder, take everything away from you. So yes, 4 causes of depression. And I want you to know the 4 causes because it's important to identify why you're feeling depressed, why you're feeling anxious. And interestingly, God chose many depressed people in the Bible to lead his people. If you go through the Bible, I'm pretty sure David was very depressed writing the Psalms, and Jonah was depressed, and Jeremiah. So it is okay. And I want to read Lamentations 3, 1 to 20 to understand what Jeremiah was going through. I am the man who has seen affliction under the rod of his wrath. He has driven and brought me into darkness without any light. Surely against me he turns his hand again and again the whole day long. He has made my flesh and my skin waste away. He has broken my bones. He has besieged and enveloped me with bitterness and tribulation. He has made me dwell in darkness like the dead of long ago. He has walled me about so that I cannot escape. He has made my chains heavy. Though I call and cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways with blocks of stones. He has made my paths crooked. He is a bear lying in wait for me, a lion in hiding. He turned aside my steps and tore me to pieces. He has made me desolate. He bent his bow and set me as a target for his arrow. He drove me into my kidneys, and I have become the laughingstock of all peoples, the object of their taunts all day long. He has filled me with bitterness. He has sated me with wormwood. He has made my teeth grind on gravel and made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say, my endurance has perished. So has my hope from the Lord. Remember my affliction and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. So can you see how depressed this man was?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Bible was very picky what they put on the pages, because at the time paper was really expensive and it was a massive process to make the paper, and the ink was very expensive, and they chose to write these depressing thoughts on the paper. So it means that your emotions are valid. Whatever you feel is valid. But always remember, there's two sides of the coin. The other side is they're not permanent. Okay, so your emotions are valid, but they're not permanent. And the first step is to name your depression, your anxiety, whatever gives you these feelings. Are you afraid? Are you scared? Are you angry? I want you to go through and name these things out loud, because when you name those things out loud, then you can actually work on them. And thank God our emotions are temporary. And interestingly, there is this study they did with spiders, with tarantulas. There is this massive spiders, tarantulas, and they put 4 groups of people in 4 different rooms. First group of people, they said, okay, I know you, all these people were afraid of spiders. They just hated spiders. They could not stand spiders. And first group of people, they were told, when you see the tarantula, state your feelings out loud. So start saying what you feel, why you feel this way. Second group of people, they said, make general comments. Just say, I'm in the cage, just general comments, not addressing your feelings. Third group, they said, say irrelevant statements like, it's Tuesday today, or I ate a big breakfast, so something irrelevant. And fourth group, they said, don't say anything at all. Just be in silence and just watch the spiders. And interestingly, after a week, they called the people again, and the best people, the people who did the best, were the first group who were saying those feelings out loud and trying to work through them. And some of them actually held the tarantulas, the spiders, in their hands. So interestingly, saying things out loud, I'm feeling like this because I am this, is going to help you to start that journey of healing. I know, and this is the thing, for me, the absolute best way that I could fight depression was to help someone else. I know a friend, I'm a type of person, when I'm going through something massive, something really depressing, I shut myself down. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to have anything to do with anyone. And interestingly, I watch people who are older than me, and I learn from them so much. And I have this beautiful friend who was going through massive, horrific divorce. And what was she doing? Inviting people every single day to her house and listening to other people's issues. And that's the person I look up to and I want to be like, because how can you be going through so much craziness and yet you just want to help people? So recently I was told I couldn't feel angry and I couldn't be depressed, and because it's not Christian-like, and I'm not a Christian apparently if I have those feelings. But Bible says, be angry, yet do not sin. It's okay to be angry. Second one is you feel hopeless, right? But the second side of the coin is, with God, there is hope. Okay? I know you feel hopeless, but there is always hope. I want to go to now Lamentations. We're going to read from Lamentations 3:21 to 24, the second side of the coin. After Jeremiah says all these things, you're like, whoa, what is happening? Then he says, but these I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him. Okay, so sometimes we just have to preach to ourselves. My soul, don't feel this way. Why are you so anxious? Stop feeling this way. God has got us. God promised his love. God said he's going to come, he's going to take us home, and that's what we need to concentrate on. And to finish with, I want to read Jonah. I love the story of Jonah. So we're going to go to Jonah 4, and we're going to read 5 till 11. And remember Jonah? God was like, go, you need to go and tell people. He's like, sure, God, take me the opposite direction. Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do anything. But finally he went there. He told everyone God is going to destroy, and he's like going up the hill. Now watch what God said. He's going to destroy everyone, but he didn't realize that these people asked for forgiveness and God was not going to do it. And Jonah went out of the city and sent to the east of the city and made a booth for himself there. He sat under it in the shade till he should see what would become to the city. Now the Lord God appointed a plant and made it come up over Jonah, that he might be a shade over his head to save him from his discomfort. How amazing is God? The tiny little detail, creating that shade for him. So Jonah was exceedingly glad because of the plant. But when dawn came up the next day, God appointed a worm that attacked the plant so that it withered. Then the sun rose. God appointed a scorching east wind, and the sun beat down on the head of Jonah so that he was faint. And he asked that he might die. Like he's asking, kill me. God, what are you doing to me? And said, it is better for me to die than to live. But God said to Jonah, do you dwell to be angry for the plant? And he said, yes, I do well to be angry enough to die. And the Lord said, you pitied the plant for which you did not labor, nor did you make it grow, which came into being in a night and perished in a night. And should not I pity Nineveh, the great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know their right hand from the left? So every one of you is God's child. God loves every one of us. So our mission today, to take away from this story, go and talk to your friend. Make this church the safest place for anyone to share what they're going through, share their depression, and be there for people, okay? Adopt someone, adopt one person. You don't have to adopt 150 people, but adopt that one person into your family and be a hearing ear for them and listening to what they have to say.
Well done.
When you said about verbalising your depression, that just turned into complaining, wouldn't it? I mean, what do you verbalise?